Welcome back to the course on how to learn music as a foreign language. Just a reminder, we are still in Grade 1, Level 1, Introduction to Music Symbols. Welcome to Section 5. In this section, we are going to study a few more music symbols, bar lines, 4/4 time signature, and the repeat sign. These are the 5 lessons that we're going to cover in this section. In Lesson 1, we're going to study the different types of bar lines and their individual functions in the music staff. In Lesson 2, we are going to study a very common simple time signature called 4/4. In Lesson 3, we're going to have a quick review of the notes and rests. In Lesson 4, we're going to study a little bit more about the values of music notes and rests. And in Lesson 5, we're going to learn the repeat sign. Now, let's take a look at bar lines. Bar lines are drawn across the music staff in order to divide the piece of music into sections. We call these sections bars or measures. Without bar lines, it is difficult to determine the phrasing of notes to form into a sensible musical progression. So generally, bar lines tell us where one measure ends and another begins. Let's take a closer look. In a grand staff, bar lines are drawn across the treble and bass staves. There are different types of bar lines in music. Each has its own specific function. In this lesson, we shall only cover 3 types of bar lines. First is the single bar line, which tells us where the measures are and separate the notes as required by a specific time signature. Secondly, a double bar line shows us that there is a major change in the music, such as a new time signature or a section of music is ended. And thirdly, the final double bar line, one is thicker than the other and it indicates that the piece of music is finished. At the beginning of each piece of music after the clef, you will see 2 numbers. These numbers are called a time signature. The number on top indicates the number of beats in each bar or measure of music, and the bottom number tells us the type of note receiving one beat. This means that the 4/4 time signature indicates 4 beats in a measure or a bar, and each beat is worth a quarter note. 4/4 is the most common time signature and is sometimes represented by the common time symbol, which looks like the letter C. So if we have all quarter notes in a 4/4 time signature, each note will be played with 1 beat counting like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sometimes when playing in 4/4 time, it is possible to use any combination of note values which add up to the equivalent of 4 quarter notes, like this. Okay, just a quick review on the first most common notes that we have studied so far: the whole note, the half note, the quarter note, the 8th note, and the 16th note. It is important to know that these types of notes have different names, especially if you live in the United Kingdom or in Australia. The whole note is called a semibreve. The half note is called a minim. The quarter note is called a crochet. The 8th note is called a quaver. And the 16th note is called a semiquaver. Obviously, the names of the rests also change with the notes. So the whole rest is called a semibreve rest. The half rest is called a minim rest. The quarter rest is called a crochet rest. The 8th rest is called a quaver rest. And the 16th rest is called a semiquaver rest. As we have studied in previous lessons, a note value refers to the duration of time a musical note is played or sung and is measured by beats or counts. In our example here, we use a 4/4 time signature, which means 4 beats in each bar. Notice the number of notes needed to meet the time signature requirement. Because we are using a 4/4 time signature, every bar cannot have more than 4 beats. Therefore, if we use a whole note in one bar, That's the only note we need because its value is already 4 beats. Obviously, we need 2 half notes to complete the 4 beats in one bar, 4 quarter notes, and 8 eighth notes. If we use the piano to play these notes, it will sound like this. For the whole note, for the half note, for the quarter note, and for the eighth note. A rest value refers to the duration of time a musical rest is being counted in silence. Every musical rest has the same value as its note counterpart. Therefore, the counting is exactly the same. What is also important in this lesson is the way a whole rest and a half rest are written. Because they look very much alike, it is important to note that the whole rest is hanging from the 4th line of the music staff, and the half rest is sitting on the 3rd line of the music staff. As you can see, the quarter rest and eighth rests are quite distinct from the other symbols, so they are not as challenging to identify as with the whole rest and half rests. Finally, let's get to know the repeat sign. This musical repeat sign is represented by the 2 dots placed in the middle of the 2nd and 3rd spaces of the staff and written just before the final double bar line. The repeat sign tells the musician to play again a section of a piece of music from the beginning. It is important to know that there are other repeat signs that we shall study in the next grade level. I hope you are enjoying your learning so far. Remember, in order to maximize your learning, always ask questions if there is something that you don't fully understand. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next section.